G'day guys, Lindemann here in X-Plane 10 64-bit, flying the Cessna 208 Caravan by Coronado and using SkyMAXX Pro patch 1.1 for the sky and weather. You can purchase that off x-aviation. It's making the plane look the X-Plane 10 world look very nice, and it's running in HDR now with very good frames per second. We're doing a flight simulator economy flight to Shelter Cove in California. If I bring up what I'm doing here, you can see that we have a flight to this area right here with a little coastal airstrip. Shelter Cove, we can look that up in Flight Simulator Economy. We've got a bit of a mixed bag of passengers, a runaway, a couple of nerds, a couple of Greenpeace activists, a guy named Elvis, and 3 aviotrophobics, whatever that is. We can bring up the map of the flight, flying up to the coast like so. It's basically pretty simple, and we might just look up some details inside Flight Simulator Economy for this particular strip for Shelter Cove. And we have an asphalt runway, approach 121 degrees and 301 degrees. So we're flying up to the northwest. That means we're going to be flying at an even altitude. Currently we are at just less than 3,000 feet. So we'll probably fly on up at, say, 6,000. Do that like so. We'll set our vertical speed to be something a wee bit gentle, say 600 feet per minute. And we've got the desired heading set to the runway heading. Let's get 1 notch of flaps, like so. Heading mode is in, and once we're underway, we'll get the nav mode set. I'm also using the HD mesh for higher resolution mesh on terrain. Lots of trees currently in X-Plane 10 with the settings that I'm using, extreme number of objects, but I don't think I'm particularly close to any cities to really take advantage of that. So let's get the parking brake off. Parking brake is off, and we can get this plane in the air. So we'll get the power forward. Brakes off. Okay, so we will get heading mode enabled, and we can actually start a turn here. So we're going to 303 degrees. I'll just set that around. I'll also set my desired heading approximately to the same. Keep that rate of climb at 600 so far. It looks like the weather is a little bit rough. You can have a look at the terrain shading as well. I'll just jump outside the aircraft. Let's see, we've got a bit of turbulence going on. And the level of detail, got traffic, got a huge number of trees going on. We've got some pretty advanced lighting, so things are looking pretty good for X-Plane 10 right now with some selected plugins. Now get some lights on as well in here. Really brighten things up. Okay, coming around, and we'll just make a correction for our course. We're off to the right, so we're going to come left of our course and pick that up. Okay, I'm just going to drop back the throttle slightly into the green. Can't maintain the over temperature for very long at all, and we will get the time acceleration on. It's not doing much in terms of time acceleration because the frame rate is probably around about 25 to 30 at this point. So if I look at the ground, it kind of improves that quite a bit. See, there's the airfield that we've just come from. See, there's quite a bit of traffic down there. Great detail on this aircraft. Very nice detail on this terrain as well. Alright, so we're coming in on our destination here, which is Shelter Cove. You can actually see it off in the distance. There it is over there. I've turned down the sun's rays slightly, and I'll show you why. If we just jump into configuration, if I turn up the sun's rays to maximum, which probably isn't recommended, you end up with quite an overpowering kind of yellow out effect. So you see that there, and that can continue on into dusk where you get some strange results. So by just turning that down to a little bit more of a reasonable level, you can keep the sun's rays kind of in balance without kind of overpowering the entire sky, and you can keep a bit of detail in the scene. If it's going to bloom, then yeah, that's fine to bloom, but it's kind of an opaque yellow out, which isn't so cool. So we're just coming in now on approach. I'll get the power off slightly, and we're at a distance now of 13 miles, coming down through 3,000 feet. I'm going to switch to heading mode, so we'll select that. The aircraft will just go into a slight left-hand turn, and we can get on track for our approach into Shelter Cove, which looks like an asphalt airfield just on that peninsula over there in, I think it's Northern California. I think, let's see, we are 3 miles out, and we are pretty much on a fairly good approach here. We can get a degree of flaps out, 10 degrees of flaps. We'll start slowing the aircraft down. Making a bit of a left-hand turn. Okay, now the weather conditions are fairly calm, so we don't have any direction to worry about for that weather. Okay, and at this point, actually I am 6 miles out, so I am a little bit low. So we'll keep the altitude hold on for now. Moving at 100 knots. We'll just cruise along. We're basically lined up there. Okay, 5 miles out. The runway is about 50 feet above the ground, or less. At this point we're probably about 700 feet too low, so I'm just continuing on. Don't need to worry about landing gear, as I usually try and put the landing gear up when I take off, but it's got fixed gear. Throw out another degree of flaps. That's done. My recording is set to 30 frames per second, but I'm actually experiencing much higher frame rates than 30 frames per second, so it is looking pretty good at this end. Okay, I've just disengaged the autopilot. 4 miles out, we'll just start a gentle approach. Get the throttles off a wee bit, and we'll go down to full flaps for the landing. Just adjust the trim to suit. Coming down, I'm probably about 20 knots too fast than I'd like to be, but we can make this work. Alright, that's a bit more like it. You can see we've got a little hillside township here. It's not a very long runway. Just throttle that off, flare, touchdown, and we'll get that beater going. Right down to say 40 knots on the brakes. And we'll start to taxi off. Looking for a bit of a parking space. And there we have it. We're down in X-Plane 10, Coronado 208 Caravan with SkyMAXX. So we will now just quickly shut down the aircraft, set the parking brake very quickly, and this is how we finalise the flight for... Hey, why won't that come out? There we go. And we want the engine, the fuel cut off. Pauses. And that means that Flight Simulator Economy has now finalised the flight. We can see that here. There we go. Your flight is logged, and the results can be found on the website. If I jump to said website, I can jump in here, and I'll just go to my flight. You can see I've got a payment here of about $5,000 sitting in my bank account now from managing that flight, and my current status: no aircraft or jobs selected or rented because they've cleared. So these jobs here are complete. Thanks for watching. My name is Lindemann. This is X-Plane 10.